Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Star Wars Ahsoka Episode 3 in the books, and we got a round table of guests here tonight to bring you everything we possibly can on that episode. And there was a lot to take in a very short amount of time, and I'm excited for this one. Joining me off the bat here, it's Randy. What's going on, man?
Not a whole lot. I know we'll be getting into this in depth as much as we can, but I'm just happy that we're getting some good Star Wars content here.
Starting off with positivity. I like it. Tommy B, we missed you on week 1, man. We're here on week 2, which is actually episode 3. That's going to get confusing. How you doing, dude? You feeling good after that episode, or are you kind of lukewarm?
There were some things about it I really liked. There were, just a minor element of sorts that, I'll say a little lukewarm on, but I generally enjoyed the episode.
Joining us again from Bros Before Pros. I always want to say Bro Before Hoes. I just can't help it. Had to pick that title. It's Mr. Johnny. What's going on, dude? How you feeling tonight? I know you don't like the shorter episodes, but are you in a positive mood, or are you going to war tonight?
Well, I'm not ready for war, but I'm sharpening my pointy sticks.
Now, is that just because of episode length, or do you have deeper rooted issues with this episode?
Deeper rooted issues.
Okay, that's fair. All right, so let's get into this. Episode 3, Ahsoka kicks off with a training montage. Not even really a montage; it's really a long, stretched out scene of Ahsoka and Sabine. It sort of harkens back to Kenobi and Skywalker from A New Hope. I'm sure it harkens back to some stuff throughout the Clone Wars as well. I just kind of want to start here, guys, and we'll work our way through the episode. But I gotta tell you, people had issues with pacing the first week. I wasn't one of them. But this opening scene is my biggest issue with the episode because it's such a short episode. I think it ended up being like 28 minutes in actual time.
29 minutes and 15 seconds is what I
29
clocked
minutes,
at.
15 seconds. Thank you. I think that's just way too long of not a lot happening in an episode that probably should have been 15 or 20 minutes longer. I know people say it's not about the runtime, and it isn't, but when you stuff slow-moving scenes in a short episode that are drawn out, it eats a lot of that episode, and then it feels like you don't get very much out of that episode. That being said, in general, I liked this episode. I did not like it as much as the first two. I see some people online already saying the opposite. But I enjoyed it, and I definitely have some pros and some cons. But Randy, just how you feeling about the episode in general? You said good Star Wars. Do you have things to nitpick? And what did you think of the beginning here? I thought it was a little drawn out.
See, I feel like what they were trying to do is set a tone for potential growth between Ahsoka and Sabine. That's kind of why I think why it was drawn out, since obviously we see later in the episode, Hu Yang was talking about how, if you guys don't get on the same page, we're going to die here, essentially. So, I mean, it could have been a couple of minutes shorter, but I also think it was actually kind of interesting to see how she's training someone who doesn't really feel the Force, but still is, good enough with a weapon, because obviously she learned from Kanan how to wield the Darksaber. So I feel like it was interesting to see a Force user train someone who isn't as proficient in the Force. So I liked that. Obviously, one of my bigger nitpicks is always going to be, not enough Balin. That was kind of a bit of a bummer, but I understood that the idea of what they were trying to do with this episode. It felt like, and I hate to say it like this, but it felt like kind of like an episode of Rebels, the way the pacing was and kind of how they were just trying to hit the plot points as quickly as possible to get you through that 30-minute runtime, essentially, which is fine. I never had any real gripes with Rebels, so. But I enjoyed it for what it was.
Tommy B, how about you? In general, I think you said you liked the episode. What about the opening sequence? Again, it's pretty long. It's pretty drawn out, which I don't mind. I love long, drawn out things, but it's hard to.
What are we referencing specifically with the
Everything before the title card. It lasts a while, man. It lasts longer than.
I was a little surprised with when that came up, and I'm like, oh, so that's when we're getting started. All right, I guess that's okay. I will admit that was a little different.
I don't know if you're coming through your mic or your laptop right now. You might want to check that.
I just checked it earlier. I'm going to be pissed off if it's not.
Tommy's going to start cutting people down.
It's not. Oh
boy, here we go.
Okay, we should be better now. Christ,
yeah, there you go. I'm like, Tommy sounds different, and I was just on air with him, so like, yeah, I don't know. Did you think it was drawn out? Everything before the title card. Again, I don't mind it being drawn out, but it's hard to have that in a 29-minute episode. And again, the 29-minute episode might be better than some of the 50-minute episodes that are still to come. It's not about runtime, but it is how you construct an episode. And I did think that the episode started a little flat for me. How about you, Mr. Tommy B?
I really like some of the elements they're delving into in this episode. I think this is getting a little bit of away from what you were hinting at, but I know the fandom's gonna rip it apart, and some are just gonna be positive about everything. I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea of somebody who is not inherently force sensitive through sheer discipline and training being able to acquire some degree of ability. But they need to do it in a good way. They can't just suddenly poof, you have powers now.
I thought she was going to move, like, even make the cup wiggle there for a second. I was going to say, come the fuck on, Filoni. Really? Like,
I think I'm going to like the way this is going, and I think Filoni's going to do it justice. I don't think suddenly she's going to come out and she's going to be Star Killer from The Force Unleashed. But I do think at the end of the things, she might have something. And that'd be cool, in my opinion. Pacing was a bit iffy at times, and yet it felt like there was a whole lot of nothing happening. My attention, I had a hard time maintaining it at times. Now, I did have my laptop in front of me, but I had a hard time keeping my attention focused on this episode at times. It felt very slow at some parts, but then very fast at others.
I think one of my issues with the opening scene is, again, and I tried to do that thing we talked about last week. I know Tommy wasn't here for it, but where I tried to, like, really consider, like, okay, so what if I hadn't seen those series? Does this opening scene work? And for me, it doesn't, because there's not a whole lot of in-depth dialogue that happens during that scene. And for people that are just meeting these characters, I could see them looking at that opening scene and going, yeah, this, like, what are we doing here? But again, I don't mind it, and it harkens back to Anakin and Obi-Wan. I just don't think it came across the best way, but, you know, we're not going to spend the whole episode talking about the opening scene. Johnny, did you have issues with that opening scene, or did it just hit right for you?
I didn't have issues with that opening scene.
Well,
because
I'm really puzzled where you're going with your. Oh, geez.
I am just all over the map on this episode. But my issue wasn't so much with the scene inherently. The issue with the scene ties into the issue of length. You know, because the scene wasn't out of place for me as an opening sequence to sort of, you know, bridge the pace of their travel. And, you know, it's one of those things that's lost in Star Wars a lot of the times, is those sort of downtimes during travel. You know, you don't get as much of that as you used to. Like the interim stuff was a big part of the original trilogy. You know, you'd have the sequences like with Luke training on the Falcon, and you'd have like the chess, you know, with Chewie and 3PO and, you know, and R2 and all. You know, you'd have all of those little moments interspersed throughout the overarching story, and I like that. You know, I like sort of peeling behind the curtain and seeing how we're going to achieve this training with someone who's not, you know, a savant in the Force, you know, which is something that Star Wars has never really dealt with. The only people we've ever really seen trained in the Force from whole cloth have been savants. You know, it's been Luke, it's been Anakin, it's been Ezra, who have all sort of been, you know, sort of treated almost as special, as different than everyone else. You know, we've never seen someone who has to look deep inside to find their connection. And I like seeing that because it's different. It's not something we're used to seeing. So I didn't really have an issue because it worked within the character, you know, and it harkened back to me. It sort of, you know, it felt Rebels, you know, sort of, it felt very much like a Kanan and Ezra sequence. And I liked that because it, you know, ties those parallels. And I like, you know, you get Hu Yang being Hu Yang, who is always, you know, a spice of fun, you know, when he gets sassy. I love sassy Hu Yang, you know, because I love sassy David Tennant. But that's just, you know, seeing that sass come through is something I love seeing. And it worked. It was great sequences. You got to sort of pierce the veil and see how, you know, you're getting this level of training that we've never gotten before. And, you know, I did expect sort of that, especially when they framed the cup at the very end, that was when I expected it to happen. Like as she's walking away and heading to the bridge, that would have been the moment where, what she'd been trying to achieve had actually happened, but not in her presence, so that we'd get that moment of, oh, she can do this. But she doesn't get that moment of she can do this, so that it's saved for the big reveal when she finally calls on the Force, probably in a battle with Shin. That's my assumption, that they're finally going to have that moment where she calls on the Force and it responds immediately instead of as a sort of delayed late reaction. So I did sort of expect that, but I wasn't lacking of it. And I enjoy opening sequence. I have a high tolerance for opening sequences, and this one was okay. Not in an episode that logs sub 30 minutes. Or if this is part of a longer season. Like if this is a Rebels opening, it's fine because it's a 15 to 25 episode season, depending on how long you're going, then it's fine. You can have sort of, these opening sequences or scenes and episodes that sort of feel more fillery than substantive. But when you're in, a 6 to 8 limited series, you don't have time for this. And that's it. With runtimes this short, you don't have time. Like if this is a 15-minute episode, no issues whatsoever. But in a 30-minute episode, you spent a lot of time on this sequence that could have been better suited as a sort of faster montage instead of full-blown training sequence.
Sorry, one moment. Something may have just came across. So there's no confirmation on this, but there is confirmation on next week's runtime, and it's 50 minutes. But there's a rumor out there, and again, don't jump too far on it. We're talking runtime here, but for me, I like if the time is used right, I can appreciate the long runtime because it gives everything a chance to breathe, and you still get some substance too. But apparently, episode 5's runtime is again a longer runtime. They don't have an exact time added to it, but they believe it might be longer than episode 4. And episode 4 is 50 minutes. So we'll see what happens there. So we get the title card, and I'm really eager. I try not to jump ahead here to figure out where it goes off for Johnny, and I have a feeling it's going to go off for Johnny in a place that I like. So we'll see what happens here. But we get the title card, and then you get that Return of the Jedi-esque shot of the instead of the Rebel fleet, you get the New Republic fleet. And let me tell you, as a Game of Thrones fan, I could have had the whole episode at the New Republic fleet. I could have. Simply because, or whatever fleet that was, a fleet of the New Republic. Obviously, it wasn't like where everybody is, because we see Mon Mothma, and it was cool to see her again. If you watched all of Andor, she plays a pretty integral role in that show. So it was really nice to see her again, the connective tissue there. But as a guy who's not the biggest fan of the sequel trilogy, I can sit here and say I liked the connective tissue that we get between where it is basically 23 or 24 years from now with the Resistance. And you're already seeing it. Like the Republic or the New Republic, however you want to call it, like they're already being naive as shit against literally, as far as we know, the biggest mastermind strategist that has ever lived in the Star Wars universe. Anyway, probably not a good idea. I like politics in Star Wars. It's why I like the prequels. Minus Jar Jar's involvement in them. I don't mind Jar Jar as a character, but that got a little silly. But I just appreciate it because like Hera is visibly frustrated, and then is the one guy from that other Star Wars TV show? What was that? Is the other Star Wars TV show called Resistance or whatever?
That is the other cartoon from this era.
Yeah. So I could have sworn the senator there is from that show. I could be wrong. Gonna have to look into that.
I was thinking Have we seen you before in some role or another? But I can't put my finger on it myself.
I didn't see all that show, so I don't know, but the name sounded familiar. And then they made a point of saying the name. What is it? Xena? Am I saying that right? I'm pretty sure he has background in Star Wars lore somewhere. Like, I don't think that's a new character that they whipped up, or maybe it is, and we're off. I just can't place my finger on it right now. But again, I love the New Republic stuff. I loved how frustrated and emotional Hera was. I thought, oh my God, who's the actress that plays her again? McGregor's wife.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Thank you. I thought again.
You could always just say Mrs. Obi-Wan Kenobi if you really wanted to.
We'll go with Mrs. Obi-Wan. I thought her performance, even though she didn't have a lot to do in this episode, again, was really good. I'm really digging her interpretation of Hera. And honestly, I wish we were getting a little more of her, but what we do get, I'm thoroughly enjoying. So I really liked everything that happened on the ship. I know Tommy probably popped for Jason Syndulla there, who obviously doesn't look quite like he did in the cartoon. But and I do think that I don't know for certain. I don't know any spoilers either in regards to him, but I felt like they were hinting at who could train him as a Jedi someday. And I don't think it's Sabine. I'll say that. I think there's some nice connective tissue there. If one Mr. Bridger can get back to the known galaxy, that would be a nice little full circle thing to mirror almost Obi-Wan.
Oh gosh, I didn't even think about that. That would
be amazing.
That would be wonderful.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
My mind went to that's Ray's first student, so I guess we all went in different places.
Well, he'd be older than Ray. Significantly, but I guess that doesn't matter. You can have older apprentices. I mean, essentially, Obi-Wan's an apprentice to Qui-Gon again, and Qui-Gon's dead. So, master and apprentice don't have strict laws that need to be followed. So, I'd be down for something like that too. What did you guys think of the New Republic portion of the episode? Again, I was captivated by it, and it seems like what was once the rebellion has kind of, even though they defeated the evil empire, has maybe gone about things the wrong way in the aftermath, pun intended. And
before we get deep into that, while we were on that, quick Google search told me that Senator Ziano is the father of Kazuda Ziana, the Resistance main character.
Yeah. Okay. So there is a tie there. That's what I thought. So thanks, man. Fact checker Johnny. Look at that. Randy, well, what do you think of the New Republic stuff, man? Because I was really captivated by this, but also very annoyed that Mon Moth, the character that you've seen all of Andor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like that character somehow allowed that to happen kind of bothers me, and yet it's also very human.
See, I enjoyed it just because obviously, getting more Hera is always good, but I also thought the performance there, the emotion conveyed, and how she really just, how she just brought Hera to life. Like, I can sit there and watch an episode of Rebels and be like, and it's like, put them side by side and be like, yep, that's Hera. So I was very, very happy with that. You could see with Mon Mothma that she wants to help Hera, but obviously fear and the fear of the idea of there still being an Imperial remnant that's not loyal to the New Republic. So like they just don't want to believe that that's possible, and that really drove the scene, especially with the idea of Thrawn, because you could tell the minute she mentioned Thrawn, everybody just kind of went, "Oh shit." Like, no, that's impossible. And that's when the one senator went straight to, hey, you just trying to use this to go find Ezra. And which we all know, whether it's Ahsoka, Sabine, or Hera, they do want to find Ezra, but truly Thrawn is the real threat here, regardless if Ezra's alive or not. And I felt like they really did, as a whole, this scene really conveyed just how much the New Republic wants to put blinders on and just say, no, everything's good. Like that meme, this is fine. Everything's fine, with the fire all around him and everything like that. That's kind of what this felt like. And it really sets the tone for what we're probably going to see from the New Republic. And then there's going to be like, everything's going to go to hell. To be like, we're sorry, we didn't believe you. Well, if you believed me from the get-go, this wouldn't be an issue right now. So I feel like they're just setting up some plot points for future episodes, maybe even the movie. And I just felt like they did a really good job of just conveying just how much the New Republic just doesn't want to believe there's a threat out there.
It's interesting because in the sequel trilogy, they again, you have to retcon some of this stuff sometimes in order to make new content. Obi-Wan Kenobi, I haven't heard that name since around the time you were born. Obviously, that's bullshit. So, I do question the whole. There's the New Republic never got involved in another big war between Jedi and the Force Awakens. It's, what they put out there. They put it out there in a bunch of the literature, a bunch of the reading material for the movie. It's even referenced in the movies. I do wonder if this war isn't going to involve the New Republic, but rather parts of it and Mandalorians and almost like this ragtag group of people. And maybe the war does not take place in Republic space, but rather in the unknown regions or in the other galaxy. I do wonder if that's how they make this. I'm not convinced the New Republic's going to go to war here. I don't think they're going to get the opportunity. Frankly, I think it's going to be this.
Really don't paint the New Republic in a good way.
No, like it's already gone to shit. And it's only been, what are we, roughly 7 years at this point? Close to it.
I mean, we know what happens in The Force Awakens, and it's really interesting, the way things seem to be going when you put it into perspective.
Well, what did you think of the New Republic stuff, man? Like, you've been going through a bunch of the reading material lately. You've just gone through the Aftermath trilogy, which are canon books.
Aftermath really paints the reluctance of the New Republic era. It ends up coming down to leftover rebel sentiments and attitudes that really drives the hero in the Republic. The heroes are not the ideal citizens, if you will, and that really seems to be consistent with what we're starting to see here. Things could always go a number of different directions, but regardless, we already know how things look in The Force Awakens. They go boom.
Very quickly, too, might I add.
Yeah. And that's that is inclusive of it's a spoiler, and it's not a spoiler. It's from a show nobody else in this stream is probably going to watch. If I remember correctly, that's inclusive of the senator. I believe he dies in Resistance.
Oh, does he?
I do believe so. He's not featured very heavily.
Resistance 1 takes place closer to the sequel trilogy, right? Or is it closer to the original?
Resistance actually runs into and past The Force Awakens.
Okay. All right. So, so that's a long, long ways away then. I guess, and I know it's not exactly like this, but when you see how shit's already going for the New Republic, you can kind of see why, and in canon, this is basically what happened, why Han and Luke were just kind of like, see ya, have fun, we're going to do our own thing. I get it, Luke goes to try to create the Jedi Order, but there's a lot of people, just because they haven't expanded on it yet, Han got the hell out of there too. Like, it wasn't like he stuck around and like that was it. He left. Same with Lando. So I could see those characters, those people, not really siding with what happens on the political side. But in general, Tommy, the New Republic scene that we got, expanding from obviously the round table of whether they were going to go help or not, to Jason's little cameo there, What do you think of it?
Oh, wrong button. It was cool seeing him. Like we said, he was a little bit different, but maybe there's reasons for that. Who knows, right? I would really like to see him be get some training somehow somewhere down the line. I feel like that line kind of sets us up for it nicely. Not that anybody cares, but I need to correct my statement because I did find the character's name. That father does not die. They play that off. He was off world.
Johnny, your thoughts on the? I guess it starts off as the Return of the Jedi shot there with the fleet, all the way to Jason.
I mean, the fleet shot was great. I liked that because it looked, visually appealing. It was a gorgeous shot. So I didn't really have much issue with that. But for me, this was sort of where the episode started to come off the rails for me, and part of that is, the knowing what happens and seeing the future. It's the car crash you're seeing, watching in the lane next to you that you can see happening, and there's no way you can, but you just watch it anyway. That's sort of what it felt like, because it made the entirety of the New Republic toothless, and that was just it was boring for me to watch. And the bickering back and forth with the senators, this scene to me felt the most like a cameo for cameo's sake, because Mon Mothma provided nothing other than being, hey, it's Mon Mothma. And I didn't like that. If that was others, like just another panel of senators that didn't feature Mon Mothma, I would have appreciated that scene more, because Mon Mothma understands the severity of this threat. Mon Mothma has, in her own way, gone toe-to-toe with Thrawn. If there is anyone in the New Republic that can stand there and say, hold on, the last thing we want is this guy showing up. So if I've got to send, a task force to this random planet at the edge of the galaxy, so be it. Because I'd rather them waste their time than have this man return and rally the troops. Because we've just seen that the Imperial loyalists are a threat to us. If they can occupy a part of the New Republic so vital to wholly occupy the Corellia shipyards, like, come on now. If they can do that, where else are they doing this? And if Grand Admiral Thrawn comes in from wherever he is, we got a problem. We got a real problem. So if we have to send a small task force out to deal with this possible threat on the edge of the galaxy, so be it. And that's sort of where it was lost. This is one of those things where like a longer sequence would have suited better. Because if you follow that up with Hera leaving and having her moment with Jason, and then you cut back to the senators on, wherever they've set, I don't know if they're at Hosnian Prime by this point, or wherever they've set up, wherever these senators are.
No, not Corellia. Is it Corellia?
Why would they be on Corellia after what just happened on Corellia? Like, wouldn't they've just done
They go somewhere after Coruscant that's not Hosnian Prime.
No, that's why I said I don't know if they're at Hosnian Prime yet, or where they're at in the timeline. So wherever they are, if you cut to sort of a senator's chambers where you can have Mon Mothma stand up and do one of her Mon Mothma speeches, it suddenly makes more sense. Because yes, Mon Mothma is still a politician who's not going to berate her fellow senators in front of Hera and other people, but like, it also sort of sets you up for, like, in the chat there, just brings up the Palpatine return, but it sort of allows that to happen because you've dealt with this Thrawn threat who didn't come back, or doesn't do what you expect him to. Obviously, he doesn't rally the Republic, he doesn't rally the Empire to fight them, because they would have done that. But this is sort of the Filoni-esque thing. Rebels was about the creation of the Rebel Alliance. Ahsoka is fast becoming the creation of the Resistance.
Yeah, the little hints at it, and hints that it's going to be needed. Man, you just said something, and I wanted to respond to it, and it's oh, sorry, that's okay. So Johnny, well known, not a prequel guy. However, this is where your 29-minute episode has some. Again, I actually really like this episode, and I can't wait to rate it out of our lightsabers here at the end. But Tommy, we have a lightsaber rating system.
Trust me, you're not going to understand it. We did it twice last week. I still don't understand it.
But Johnny hit the nail on the head. If there was ever a fucking time to do one of those semicircle talks, it was when they cut away there before we go to Ahsoka. Let's see the New Republic and Mon Mothma try to lobby for the support and be denied, rather than it just cut away and them tell us about it. And like, that's one of the reasons why I like Andor. I get it. Andor can be a tough watch for some, and it takes a while to get to that point, but they deal in all that stuff. And that's so important, because it's not just about the Force. It's not. Like, yeah, it's a huge part of the show, but the people that need the help, the people who have the Force more or less, or know how to utilize it, aren't getting it again. So again, this episode stretches out into 45 minutes, and Chandrilla, thank you, Tommy. Chandrilla, yes, which makes sense, because I believe that's where Mon Mothma's from. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure they mentioned that in Andor, or at least that's where her squeeze is from anyways. I just thought, like, John, I'm shocked Johnny suggested it, since he's not a prequel guy, but like, if there was ever a time for that, it was right there. So I do feel when people go, well, runtime doesn't matter, at times it doesn't, but in this episode, I do think it suffers from not having enough room to breathe. And I get it, we're supposed to draw that conclusion from one line we get in a scene with Ahsoka, Hera, and Sabine, but there was a chance to add some more substance there, and they missed it. Did you have anything else you wanted to touch on that scene before we move on?
Well, I just want to say, fact checker Johnny confirms Mon Mothma is from Chandrilla. So, no, I mean, I liked it. You get one of those questions I had in the first episode was, where's Jason? Well, you get to see him here, and yeah, he doesn't look like he did in the Rebels sequence, but I can sort of play that off as clearly he's older than he was in the Rebels sequence. So, it's just sort of that time playing with thing they did that in my head canon now. Okay, well, that scene with Jason and Hera was before the Ahsoka and Sabine scene that ended up episode 1 of this series. So it's, it plays in that time period where he's younger. So yeah, he's more mature and older, and I don't have really an issue with that, because he still looks enough the same to me that it's clear who he is, who he's supposed to be. And it's not a super, super drastic difference that growing up wouldn't change.
I don't want to just ignore the chat, because we got some people in there talking. By the way, if you're joining us tonight, thank you for doing so. If you haven't yet, please take a moment, like, comment, subscribe, slash that notification bell. But most importantly, share your thoughts, whatever they may be, about Ahsoka episode 3, what you want out of episode 4, maybe some previous thoughts from episode 1 and 2, and get ready to share your lightsaber ratings with us at the end of this episode. We know Johnny's just dripping in excitement for it. So I'm going to bring this up. I don't know that this is a spoiler. I know Randy knows, I know a few, I know Tommy knows, I know a few. I would not put this up on the screen if I knew for sure this was a spoiler. I think this is just a viewer, like many viewers are doing, and like many people watching the show are doing, speculating. And speculating is fun when you don't know the outcome. By the way, our guy George says episode 3 was awesome. No, Johnny, not that George. He's
just say we actually have a George now. What?
He disappeared into an abyss a long time ago. Hasn't come out yet. Maybe he's in the other galaxy. But Dustin Pritchard, that's an interesting name. I think Merrick's saying "as you wish" is identical to Starkiller saying it to Vader, and it even sounded similar. definitely think it's Sam Witwer doing the voice.
Oh, there's no doubt in my mind that was Sam Witwer. No doubt.
I too think it's Sam Witwer doing the voice, but I don't know. Like, I can almost guarantee you he won't be known as Starkiller. But is the name Galen Merrick with a different like spelling of the last name and a different take on the character? I do think that's where this might be leading, and we should remember that Dave Filoni was going to bring Starkiller in as an Inquisitor in Rebels, but ultimately decided against it in favor of bringing Darth Maul back into the show, which was also voiced by none other than Sam Witwer. So there's some connective tissue there, and I know that's what everybody is pointing towards, and it might happen. I don't know if it does or not. But if it doesn't, that doesn't mean the show sucks, people. For the love of God. It's not about cameos. It's about the story we're getting. So yeah, there is that. Let's move on, which I think really the next part is basically the space battle, right? Because it goes on a long time. And let me tell you, I apologize. I'm about to get a little excited. Okay. Thank you, Dave Filoni, for understanding how to put together a space battle on screen. It wasn't the fucking bullshit from the sequel trilogy where it's over like that and there's no, grittiness or grind to it, and you don't have to work for your kills. And Poe Dameron is fucking Anakin Skywalker out and shooting down 15 TIE fighters in 20 seconds. Like, I fucking hated that. The sequel trilogy killed space fighting for me. No, I didn't think it got any better in The Rise of Skywalker either. It looked like Transformers in the sky. That might be actually is that a verse of the Transformers song? Transformers in the sky, something like that. I don't know.
In disguise.
Maybe. Oh, in disguise. Okay, in disguise.
Robots in disguise.
More than meets the eye.
I don't know. But I have to tell you, watching a space battle not only happen, but the good guys not come out of it, completely clean was nice. It was an enjoyable change. And I thought it was fairly cinematic. I'm not sure how I feel about the Ahsoka part at the end. But I really enjoyed this, and I thought it was compelling. I don't think, I truly believe this when I say this, other than Rogue One, I don't think we have gotten a space battle like that's drawn out as much as that one in any Star Wars project in the Disney era, and that includes Solo. Solo's isn't super rushed, but it's not as drawn out as that. Thoughts, Randy? How'd you feel, man? Did it captivate you the way it did me? Because I was
excited
the episode, and then I was like, oh.
I thought it was actually really well done. I actually enjoyed the fact that, you could tell how long Sabine had been out of the game, because she was definitely rusty, considering what we saw in Rebels from Sabine, and how good of a gunner she was there. But here you got to see, you got the drama of, is she fine? Is it going to click? They have the banter back and forth, but you also have that character development where Sabine and Ahsoka finally decide, okay, we need to kind of calm down and get on the same page. And they work really well as a team, especially when they're communicating. That was really cool. And it's just the fact of seeing some of that flying was amazing. I was really impressed. I didn't realize Ahsoka was that good of a pilot, to be perfectly honest. But yeah,
She did have a good teacher.
Yeah, very true, very true. But it's just just the way they set up the shots and the angles they used, and just the types of defensive flying used to get those shots, but also going out and seeing the hyperspace ring, and then having to get as close as humanly possible, then barely surviving that. I mean, just the drama there, and the action, all of that together, it was just so good.
Tommy, how about you, man? Did this space battle tickle your feathers?
It was definitely different than anything we've really gotten before. And there was a lot of excitement to that. It was really it really built up the pressure in the whole episode, right? And it was kind of like a nice culmination of it. You got to watch stress, and like you, I have the idea in mind. Oh wow, they did not come out of that just like it was nothing. I like how I think it's Sabine who says we almost died multiple times. That was it was true. It was really interesting. We're really getting to see that the stakes are high here, and that in some of these cases they are in like a really gritty manner fighting for their lives.
Again, I just think it's all about having time to breathe, having time to struggle. Like they could have done that in a way they still accomplished what they accomplished, but in a much quicker, less messy way, and they didn't do that. And honestly, I think Randy said this line last week, but like it's Dave Filoni, trusted Dave Filoni. And despite the opening feeling a little flat, it's Dave Filoni, and I probably should have just trusted that it was Dave Filoni. And again, the episode recovered for me, and I'm over the moon about the space battle. I think Jade even enjoyed the space battle. She's not the biggest Star Wars person, but like it was compelling. Now, if you're not, you probably see. I don't know if someone who doesn't know these characters thinks there's a chance they're going to die in that moment. Probably not, because it's called Ahsoka, the show, which I think is a bigger problem. Star Wars has stopped naming shows off after a character. But I was engaged with it. How about you, Johnny? What did you think of the space battle, man?
I loved it because it was an original trilogy space battle, and those were the best ones for me. There were moments where I was hearkening back to, one of my personal favorite, space encounters in the entire saga, and that was, Han and Boba Fett, leading up to the asteroid and doing all of that stuff. I loved it. I sort of, I liked the Purgles appearing and sort of being that, that asteroid field that they're in and amongst and fighting themselves around. I liked that. I would have liked them to have more of an active role, especially considering that, Shin's unnamed wingmen were shooting at them. I was kind of expecting at least one of them to get taken out by a tendril in the face, just as sort of a, you shot me, here's a tendril, like just to sort of be a part of the sequence. I loved it, because it played into Ahsoka and Sabine's sort of clashing styles. I liked that, where Ahsoka is trying to lean into use the Force, and Sabine is more leaning into the tried and tested battle methods of the Mandalorians, of her own skill that she's adapted over the years. I enjoyed all of that. I liked all of that. I liked seeing again that Hu Yang sass until he was taken out. Loved all of that. And I liked taking him out of the battle when they did, because it did sort of remove that that random droid fixes everything problem that space battles sometimes tend to have. And I don't mean random in the sense of random droid. I mean random droid solves everything in the sense of it's whichever droid happens to be in the cockpit or in the the hatch on top, or whatever sort of droid fixes everything is sort of a crutch that Star Wars leans pretty heavily on a lot in space. So I liked taking him out of the battle and continuing on without him. Ahsoka going out on the wing in the spacesuit. I mean, I'm glad she wore a spacesuit, because I was afraid we were going to have another Leia moment. So I was very happy to see the actual spacesuit, around her person when she went out there. My immediate thoughts were, why are you shooting at her now? Like, it seemed like all of a sudden Shin and I think it was just her and Merrick at that point. I think the extras had all been sort of eliminated by that point. But they start shooting exclusively at Ahsoka, and it's like, there's a whole ship dead in the water, blow it up, problem solved. Why are we shooting at the Jedi with lightsabers that is actively deflecting these bolts? Like, shoot the ship, problem solved. What are we doing here? Like, that was, I was sort of hoping for some sort of big show of force powers from Ahsoka, that she was going to sort of, deflect these bolts with the force from hitting the ship, sort of thing. Like, I would have liked that. Like, because we've seen that, this can be done through the force. I mean, obviously on a much smaller scale. Kylo does it in the, in the sequel trilogy, where he deflects the, freezes the bolt in midair, multiple bolts in midair. So like, you could achieve something like that through someone like Ahsoka, who has been, meditating for decades at this point, or even just using the force to shield the ship would have all been great. But that took me a little out of it. I understood it from sort of a deflective point, but I was on that moment. It took her out of the ship. It took her away from it. That part was sort of, I'm about it. Overall, I thought it was great, because it was, it was Filoni at his peak, giving us an original trilogy dogfight, which is something we haven't got in a very long time. There were some flashes of that in the prequel trilogy, and you had some dogfights that were pretty good, but they weren't quite original trilogy for me anyway. Because in part, they relied so heavily on the green screen and stuff like that. But this felt original trilogy. This felt very Filoni. It felt like, original trilogy George. I like that. Overall, I enjoyed it. There were moments, obviously, that took me out of it, but overall, I enjoyed the space combat.
Yeah, it was a real breath of fresh air, if you ask me. And that's basically the episode. I mean, we see the end where they land, and now correct me if I'm wrong. I literally had this one moment where I spaced out and I never went back. We see Balon and assorted people where they were last time. Mm-hmm. Was there anything said there that was heard, or did we just see someone come up and say something to him, and then we see him sort of looking off in the distance?
They speak in a language that I didn't recognize. Obviously, wasn't basic, and it was not any audible language I recognized from Star Wars. So he did say something to Balon, and Balon said something, the Jedis are hiding in the forest. Find them. Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing a little because I don't remember the exact quote, but that's what he says. And then he's the sergeant or general, whatever the guy is, says something to the assembled troops, and they sort of muster off and head off into what I'm assuming is the next episode's hunt in the planet I have dubbed Dega 2.
I feel like Balon there at the end is sensing Ahsoka. Shin might not have been able to, but it definitely seems like he knows that shit's about to pick up. Well, it's also possible that the in between.
He knows they're Jedi. Like, he specifically says the Jedi are hiding in the forest. So I don't know if he's sensing.
He did say that. See, I didn't.
He did.
Okay.
He specifically said the Jedi are hiding in the forest, and he pluralized it as Jedi was plural. At least that's how I interpreted it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Jedi is one of those weirds that's both singular and plural. So I interpret it to be plural, not singular. So I don't know if he's feeling, Sabine and assuming she's a Jedi or a Padawan, which I guess she is, but, he says Jedi, not,
I do like in the episode where Ahsoka says to the gang there, she's not looking for Sabine to match up what the old Jedi Order thought, you needed to be, which is good, because guess what? And Ahsoka points it out, they failed. They fucked up. They let one fucking guy go in there and kill 10,000 of them, basically. And, you know, so let's get to our lightsabers. And then I want to talk, Tommy, if you have to opt out, I understand. But I'd like to talk where you guys think all this is going. I don't really want to comment because I know a couple of things, but I'd like to, get your guys' takes on it. But how we do this, Tommy, is we rank it out of 5 lightsabers. I don't know if you two remember what you gave the first 2 episodes, but I gave episode 1 4.5 lightsabers out of 5, I think, anyways.
Wait, weren't there also like blasters and detonators in this rating scale? Like, the scale was off. The scale was not just out of lightsabers.
I don't know if I got the patience to learn this scale.
The blaster was your meh on it, and I believe if you hated it, it was a thermal detonator. I believe something along those lines.
Sure.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So a blaster is you're just kind of whatever about the episode, and you hate this episode and it ruins Star Wars for you. Then you're giving it the thermal detonator, maybe 2. So it's a weird ass scale.
I believe I threatened to thermal detonate the scale last week. I reiterate that.
I'm giving this episode 3.5 out of 5 lightsabers. As much as I like the story that's told, I think during the episode that we've talked about here, there's some structural issues with it and some things that honestly, the 29-minute runtime hurts. So I'm giving it 3.5 lightsabers out of 5. Randy, what are you giving it?
I mean, I wanted to like this episode a lot more than I did. But I agree with the 3.5. There was a few things that could have been a little shorter, a little longer. Obviously, the space battle that definitely really kind of brought everything together. I feel like we could have had a little more Balin instead of very at the end, but I mean we'll go to see where this is going, and I'll comment on that later. But yeah, it's definitely probably not be my favorite of the season, but I still liked it for what it is. I think it's great.
Tommy, we know you got to go after you give us your rating here, man. But out of 5 lightsabers, what are you giving it? Are you giving it a blaster to the chest, or maybe a thermal detonator?
I'm going to be a little bit more conservative with my lightsabers. I'm going to give it
lightsaber protection is very good.
3 lightsabers out of 10. 5.
What? 1.5 out of 5 then?
Oh gosh.
Wait a minute.
3 out of 5. I said it before and I'll say it again. There was some pretty cool stuff in this episode that I really, really liked. The episode itself also had some significant pacing issues and at times had a little bit of a difficult time maintaining my attention. So, not nearly as great as the first 2 episodes that launched the series. And I'm hoping that, next week and onwards will be better overall.
I also don't think I pointed this out, but for the most part, outside of some of the early stuff in the episode, I thought it continued to feel very cinematic, which a lot of the other series outside of Andor have kind of failed to do at times. So, Tommy, thanks for doing this, man. I know we went an hour here. We'll be back at it next week. And looking forward to it, man. I hope next week you decide to give it more than 3 out of 10 lightsabers and change it.
3 out of 5. 3 out of 5. All right, y'all. Peace out.
Take it easy, man.
See ya.
Tom, why did it work like that? It will not physically not let me move you guys up. What the hell? It usually doesn't do that. Johnny, you thermal detonating this? Did it ruin Star Wars for you?
No,
Are you never watching again? Is Phantom Menace now your favorite because of this?
Oh wow.
Nothing could be that bad.
Where do you
I'm
land?
sorry.
And by the way, Dustin has a bunch of stuff in the chat that I do want to address. He's been kind enough to stick around throughout this. I know George is in the chat. I know Jason's in the chat too, and I think Jason wanted to pop on at some point. The link is in the Star Wars chat, Jason, if you did want to pop on after and share your thoughts at the end here. But yeah, what are you giving it, man? Are you giving it a blaster?
The only thing I'm thermal detonating is this scale, okay? But the episode itself, it had its issues, and like I said off the top, most of it ties back into length and being too much filler in a shortened scale. You didn't get as much story progression as I wanted. Like you got character progression, yes, but you didn't get much in the way of story progression. Which again, that's sort of it's such different things that I want both. Especially in especially in a series that's this short. This doesn't have the benefit of being 10, 12 episodes, or even 20 episodes if you're going to stick to the sub 30-minute timeline. This is very short, and to have an episode this short where you only really achieve 2 elements of plot growth, in the New Republic's, complete ridiculous, attitude towards engaging, the splintered cells of the Republic, of the Empire. And you get, the only big thing you get out of this is, Hu Yang's knowledge of the routes beyond the galaxy, using the Purgles sort of as your navigational beacons, what have you. This was really the only 2 serious plot points that you got. You got character growth, but you didn't get much in the way of story growth, and that's something that's very, you can't have such little story growth in such short episodes. For me, like if it's all story growth, then I don't mind the shorter episodes, but character growth, I like being interwoven amongst the story growth. And you didn't achieve enough story growth for my liking. That's my main issue. The story didn't progress. It felt like a filler episode. It was one of those, we have extra time in the season, so let's put in a filler episode. We'll do some character stuff, but we'll just leave the story because it's fine. It's not. You're going, I have faith that Filoni is still going to tell a full and proper story, but there are going to be elements that are going to get shortchanged in the backstretch that you could have used this time to fill up on more story. So all of that said, I'm not blasting it. I'm not detonating it, because there were more than enough positive elements in and amongst that character growth, with the space combat, with the cameos. Obviously you get another Chopper appearance, but you get Jason, you get Mon Mothma and that little cameo, and you see all these different things that were fun. That I'm definitely on the lightsaber side of the scale, but I'm not heavy on the lightsaber scale. I am above half, which at times I felt like I wouldn't be, but I'm not very high above half. So I'm going to come in at 2.75 lightsabers.
See, our boy Jason did this in the chat, and we said last week there will be no 0.75s. It's either numbers, or I know in the past I've been like 0.7, 0.6, 0.4, 0.2. Trying to keep this as simple as possible, because we are going to do something a little fun.
7.5 is simple.
When we hit the halfway point, and then again at the end of the season. So do you want it like 2.5 then? Are you going to go to 3? Are you going down to 2.5 or up to 3? I know you're being handcuffed.
I guess I'm
He's thermal detonating now.
Jesus.
He's done.
I might now. As a protest on this scale, I'm going to throw a thermal detonator. I guess I'll round down.
He's going to round down. So basically, he gave it 50%. That's not bad. I get it. I would question this, though, about the people who haven't watched either much or any of Rebels and Clone Wars in a show that's called Star Wars Ahsoka. And we know there's detractors for Star Wars no matter what they do. I think the things they're going to attack most are, what have we learned about Ahsoka if you're a new viewer? And my answer would be probably not enough, to be honest, over 3 episodes. And I can totally see so they should have called this show the Sabine show and not the Ahsoka show. Those are the things that I would expect the detractors to say. And I'll be honest, I don't know if I can like adamantly disagree with those points if they're the points that they're going to make. From a new viewer perspective. For me, I'm getting it because we know Ahsoka, right? We know her past, and obviously they're going to dive more into the character at this point. But I think it's an overall issue with Star Wars titling things off of characters. I know that was one of people's biggest issues with Kenobi too. Is Obi-Wan Kenobi, but he was in about 55% of the show. So, it's difficult when you set yourself up like that. Joining us for a moment here from Backtrack Cinema, big time sponsor at this channel. Never thought I would have him on to talk Star Wars. We've talked a lot of things. We even talked Crossroads. No, not that terrible Britney Spears movie either.
Oh my god!
We did a watch along to it. It was great.
Wow.
But not the Britney Spears one. I welcome Mr. Jason Nike to the show. What's going on, bro?
Hey, what's going on? Can you hear me all right?
Oh, yeah. You're
okay.
quite loud.
All right. So, for me, a little bit of context. I know Ahsoka from Mandalorian, and that's it. I know who she is.
Rebels or Clone Wars at all?
No. So, I followed the first 2 episodes pretty good. I could catch what's going on, but I think I was in the dark a bit but I love her character. I must say that I like the way I guess I like her body language, where she's folding her arms and she's gazing a lot, and she's doing a lot of things that are very Jedi-like that I really like. But she also, in the face of danger, she's extremely calm. Now I know what you guys would probably say that's probably a huge Jedi trait of an experienced Jedi, but still, I still think that's she has this calming effect. It seems like nothing fizzes her, and I'm just really digging her character. I love the performance. You guys pretty much said it all. With Sabine, I really like the idea that she's not this don't have all this talent. She doesn't have this what did you guys call it? Force sensitive. She's not really
I think, like they said in the show, and George Lucas tried to establish this, everybody has some level of connection to the Force, but very few actually know how to control it.
Yeah, and that's something I don't think Star Wars has ever explored. Not on film anyway, or that I know of. But you guys are pro Star Wars guys. You guys are pro Star Wars. I've come to understand. I guess I'm a casual Star Wars person, but I like that idea. I think that has a lot of room for her character to grow, and she's clearly being built up to do something very special, I think.
So I want to take a moment and ask you this then, because this is a little bit of a test. I wasn't aware that you hadn't seen any of Rebels and Clone Wars. I was pretty sure that you hadn't seen them all. So through 3 episodes, little test, we're going to put Jason on the spot, and it's not for him. It's to test. It's one of the things I've been most curious about. How does a viewer who hasn't seen that stuff follow the show? So as best as you can, tell us what you know about Ahsoka Tano through 3 episodes. And I do mean everything.
Not much, really. I already knew she was Anakin's apprentice. But really, we don't know too much about her. Where has she been for the last since Revenge of the Sith? Where is there any back? You guys probably all know where she's been, but I don't. But I don't know much about her. I don't know her motives are not even being. She seems to have these friendships with all these, a history of Sabine and Hera. I really liked Hera, by the way. I'm really liking this character. Like what you said, Sean, that before when she said, "Have you ever been in a war?" I was completely captivated. That was getting into a lot of stuff I like, and I think the wife of Obi-Wan, as we're calling her.
Yeah.
I like this actress. I think she's really good too. But that was a really good performance. But yeah, I want to get to know Ahsoka a lot more from someone who hasn't seen these shows and these the animated TV episodes and stuff.
So one suggestion I would have, and you're not going to get to know her inside and out through this, but if you don't have the time to go through, is it like 7 seasons of Clone Wars and
Mhm.
it's Rebels 5 seasons or 4? 4, right?
It's 4.
4, yeah. So that's 11 seasons of most of it being a lot of episodes in each season. Not all that have her either, especially Rebels. It's a lot to go through. But there is something new that came out last year, I believe it was. It's only 6 episodes. The animation style is high quality. The story's high quality too. Dave Filoni also worked on it. Is Tales of the Jedi. It's on Disney Plus. It's 6 episodes. You get 3 episodes about the Qui-Gon Jinn Dooku story, and you get 3 episodes about Ahsoka. It does feature Anakin Skywalker in it, and I believe Kenobi's in it briefly. Can't remember. I feel like he shows up, but like that's kind of the story that's being told, and Yang mentions it in the episode, where it's like Ahsoka's line of Jedi is kind of a different one, because you have it starts with Yoda, and Yoda goes to Dooku, and Dooku goes to Qui-Gon, and Qui-Gon goes to Kenobi. Kenobi goes to Anakin. Anakin goes to Ahsoka, but Kenobi then goes to Luke. So there's like a fork in the road, and they all connect on like it's not just it was this person's master, or it was that person's master. There's some sort of connecting story to all of it through them that's told very good. So I would definitely advise, even before the next episode, if you can, check out those 6 episodes. I think they're like 15 to 20 minutes long a piece.
They also, to help out people just jumping in, on Disney Plus, they added an essential Ahsoka Tano episodes collection. I just counted, it's 30 episodes ranging from Clone Wars through the Book of Boba Fett, where you can get her entire story through 30 episodes. So, pick and choose. You can jump in towards the end, so you get more of a current picture. Really, if you start at Rebels and go from there, I think that's only like 10 episodes.
Okay, all right.
And
from my son and I,
she's Anakin's apprentice, so you pretty much can jump in at Rebels and go from there.
Yeah, but the whole episode actually felt like the second act of A New Hope, with them training, the space battle, and I like that. I like even the I don't know if you guys have. Well, you probably have. All the transition shots are very New Hope, are very Star Wars like, and I go, yeah, he's definitely tapping into. And when Ahsoka's training with her, see, I really like this scene because she's saying, "Feel my intention," like when she puts the helmet on, where she's fighting blind. She says, "Try to feel my intention." It's not just the physical thing. Like, there's something, with the Jedi's. They it's all about this feeling. And I really liked what she was doing there. Maybe a bit too drawn out, like you're saying, Sean. Maybe it was a bit too drawn out, but I actually really liked that. But I really like Jedi's training, and I'm hoping that's not the only episode we get. I'm hoping it looks like they're going to be hunted down now, but I'm hoping we get more of her teaching. You know what I mean?
I want to go off topic with this, so just because it's a little random question I never thought we would get here. So let's get into it and go through real quick. If there's a Star Wars character that you would challenge to a race, who would it be? Let's start with Randy. Who are you challenging to a race? I'm assuming this is a foot race. Let's assume it's right.
Man, that's kind of a tough question. I mean, who could I actually beat in a foot race? I think the only one I could probably beat in a foot race is maybe C-3PO, but that's probably about it.
I was going to say that. I could beat his ass.
3PO. Oh, dear. Jason, who you taking? Who you racing from Star Wars?
I was thinking C-3PO myself, because he's always walking so slow. I guess I could beat R2. That's someone who I think of, or Jabba the Hutt. He doesn't move anywhere, so
That was a good one. That was a good one. R2 might not be a good one because of his jetpack. So
yeah, that's true.
well, I mean, I guess he doesn't have it by the time of the original trilogy. Or it doesn't seem like he does anyway. Johnny, who you racing, man?
Can I race a gonk droid?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got him beat.
Yeah,
I
that's a
just push it
smart
over
choice.
on its side, and I can just walk.
I will take Anakin Skywalker minutes after this battle with Obi-Wan from Revenge of the Sith.
Well, now that's just cheating, because then I just pick anyone and chop their legs off first.
Yeah, but there's always a chance that Anakin would actually use the Force against you and bring you back. So
Right? Yeah, I guess I didn't think of that.
But you know what? Then I'll pick Darth Maul right after Obi-Wan chops him in half. What?
That was fun. Yeah, so I'm thrilled that you're enjoying the show, Jason. It's I think it's been really good so far, and I think episode 4, again, structurally, what's been out there, and I think Filoni said this in an interview, is the first 4 episodes kind of take place during one part of time, and the next 4 episodes seem to, I don't know if there's a big time gap, but it's clear that the first 4 episodes belong to one another, and the second 4 episodes sort of belong to one another as well. So it's
I want to something Johnny said too. It's almost like they're transitioning into Empire mode now by being on this kind of Dagobah, because that's what I thought too. It felt like Dagobah, like when they landed, and I thought, so I go, are they going to be training in the forest and shit? Are they just kind of just doing it just to give a little fan service? I don't know. Like,
Talking Star Wars says, I love this episode very much. Can't wait to see what's next. I think the opening could be the Balon versus Ahsoka scene in the trailer. Maybe Thrawn too. So I'm glad you brought up Thrawn, because it just registered to me, like literally moments ago, that Jason doesn't know who that is.
is this Thrawn we're talking about in the book? Here's to the Empire?
The Empire? Yes, that's
This is the canon version of that character.
I read that book a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but it was so long ago, so I'm pretty much in the dark, but I know of the character though.
Yeah, he's one of the more compelling characters. The character's still very similar to how it was back then, but it's more in depth and his motives are different. Like I'd say back in with the Thrawn trilogy, Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, Last Command, he's definitely more of a pure villain. Where Thrawn in new canon is a little bit of a anti-villain and really does have. He's not your typical Empire guy, is what I'm saying, and I feel like they've been establishing for the first few episodes what the typical Empire guy is. So I'm kind of, if you've read or watched any, not so much watched, but read any of the Thrawn stuff from the new canon, there's 6 wonderful novels by Timothy Zahn, who also consulted on the show. I'm expecting a little bit of a bait and switch here. I don't think it's as clear as people are making it seem.
Also, can I assume that the sequel trilogy is canon with this?
Yes. Yeah.
So anything that leads, okay, because
We're
I
20
know that
years
I
out
know
of that right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is also after Mandalorian.
So
Or during it.
this season right now would be, I believe it's, so the first 4 episodes, I think the way it falls is in between Mandalorian season 2 and 3, and the second 4 episodes, I believe, is after Mandalorian season 3.
So that means then that means Luke is off with little baby Yoda then somewhere.
I don't know if she has met Luke at this point.
The timeline order on Disney Plus has this after the Book of Boba Fett.
The whole thing, or
the time, it doesn't break it down into seasonally. It just breaks it down in time. Like if you were to, it's the timeline order. This falls after the Book of Boba Fett. So whether or not they're simultaneous or how exactly they occur. I don't think they've given us specifics.
I think what it means is by the time we reach the end of it, it's past Book of Boba Fett.
That's a safe bet.
Because so again, for people that haven't seen well, I don't know if you would have had to seen the shows to got this point, but in episode 1 or 2, I don't remember what one it is, but Ahsoka's clearly referencing Anakin, like, hey, when you leave, even for the right choices, sometimes it can have the wrong consequences. So she's still dealing with PTSD over what happened to Anakin and who he became. That to me implies she hasn't met Luke Skywalker yet, because Luke Skywalker would have never let Ahsoka go without being like, hey, he came back in the end. He did find a way to come back and do what he was supposed to do.
And that sounds like that would be some great emotional stuff if Luke ends up being in here. Like, I think I would really like to see a conversation between these two.
Me too, and I want it to happen. I just don't know if it does or not. And on top of that, I don't know if they were able to get Mark Hamill back. That's the truth. I hope they did, but they won't do it without Mark Hamill. Yeah, they have the stand-in. Yeah, they have the CGI tech, but the way that they want to do it is they also want Mark to film as many of the scenes too, so they can blend them. And I don't know if that happened. So I hope it did, because I think you're right. That would be incredibly emotional. So we'll have to see. Somehow, some way, whether it's Luke Skywalker or Force Ghost Anakin, or I guess Jason doesn't know what the world between worlds is. But think Terminator. I feel like in these 8 episodes, she does need to learn that, like, because that's character development for her. Like, she doesn't understand how that played out in the end. So, and that sort of changes her perspective of things. And that's exactly where I want to get to here as we close up. Where do you guys think all this is leading? Like, we all know it's leading to a movie. All of this, Mando, Ahsoka, it's all leading to a movie, maybe multiple movies.
So is this director doing a movie? Like,
Yeah.
has that already been?
Yeah,
that's already been announced.
Okay, not the director of this episode or episode 2, but the director of episode 1 and the overall showrunner, Dave Filoni.
Okay, all right.
A movie that follows up on this and Mando. So
okay.
But yeah, you're looking at, like, what did I read? I think right now it's penciled in as like Christmas 2026. So, and there's a strike right now, so the longer it goes, the more it gets backed up. So, but we'll start with Randy, dude. Where do you think all of this is going, specifically just this season? Not looking to a possible season 2 or a movie, just this season.
Well, I think what's going to happen during the rest of the season, I think we're going to see Ahsoka hit a low point. Something's going to happen, and she's going to hit a low point. And I think we're going to get your Anakin Force Ghost, who comforts her and helps her kind of find her way back. But also, I feel like you were saying, with Thrawn, it's not going to be really black or white. There's going to be that gray area. There's going to be something there that I think they're going to set up, and they've hinted at it. They've hinted at like an ancient evil of some sort. Whether they try to decide to bring the Yuuzhan Vong into the canon or the Grisk, like you were hoping from the novels.
I think they're one and the same. Just really quickly, I think we're going to find out that to the known space, this ancient thing that they've been hinting at is the little that people do know is the Grisk. But in the other galaxy, maybe they're known as the Yuuzhan Vong. It seems like that's potentially where it might be heading, but I'm probably getting my hopes up. Continue.
So, but I feel like I'm really kind of hoping that we get more of Balin, his backstory. I really feel like the way Ray Stevenson was, and just the first episode alone, the gravitas of that character. I'm really hoping that we get to see more with him and really get to understand his motives, other than the fact they're saying he's a mercenary now. But beyond that, I feel like even with Thrawn's return, I really do feel like, as much as I don't want to, as you said, not to really hint at the movie, I do kind of feel like they're setting up for something bigger, something that we're going to be like, okay, this is going to take everybody coming together, which is what the movie is going to be really for. And who knows, maybe we can get Luke involved as well to help kind of see just how far along Luke has come in his training since Return of the Jedi. Even though we saw what he did to, the Dark Troopers, that's only a portion of what he's done. Who knows? Maybe they'll decide to bring the Green Force lightning into canon, because he can use that against the Yuuzhan Vong. So it's going to be interesting. I'm really excited to really see if they, with the little seeds they're planting along, I just feel like we're building to something huge that's going to change how we view Star Wars.
I hope so. I so badly want that to be where this is going, because the Yuuzhan Vong and that war and an enemy that where the Force really doesn't affect them all that much, and it's compelling. It's end days type thing, and at least in the Star Wars. But then it's also like, you got to retcon some of the things that are said from the sequel trilogy then about no war unless they bring the war to them. I like where your mind's going with that. I hope you're right. That's basically where I'd like to see it go to. And yeah, I don't think Thrawn's going to be black and white. I hope that, we keep hearing about this other galaxy. Let's go see it for a couple episodes. Let's go see some significant differences between there and our galaxy, and fingers crossed. I hope it's them getting there rather than everybody getting here, if you know what I mean. So I'd like to see that new galaxy. On the Anakin front, yeah, I think there's definitely some play there. I mean, Hayden's in the trailers. You hear literally new recorded lines. It's not old stuff. So there's something there, and I'm pro Hayden. So I would very much like to see what they do with that and the connection between Ahsoka and Anakin. It's also possible that Ahsoka might tell him to get bent and fuck off. So, you helped kill billions, dude. You killed one guy in return. That's not gonna cut it. Jason, where I know you're not too familiar with Star Wars lore in terms of like the expanded universe, but where would you like to see it head from this point?
Well, I'd like to see everyone have a good arc. That's for sure. I think I haven't seen the trailer for the show either. I just started watching it. I was actually watching it with a buddy live, actually, another small channel like myself who's rating the Star Wars and Halloween, by the way, and I told him to watch your channel. So anyways, yeah, I think there's something with Sabine here. I think she's going to do something maybe not incredible, but something's going to happen with her, because when he put that shot on that cup like it was going to move, there's something there. There's something that maybe she's going to do something that's important, even if it's for a small fraction. So there's something there. I'd like the relationship between Ahsoka and Sabine. I think there's something there to be. And maybe in a movie or like in a trilogy, your second part usually leaves on a cliffhanger, like a dark cliffhanger, like Empire, right? So I'm thinking in the middle of this season, I think something dark's got to happen with the characters. Like, I don't know what. Like, I really don't know where it's heading, but you can see where he's hinting at things, especially this person who's lost. Like they, what's his name? Hero was. Yeah,
Ezra.
Is he coming back as the same person though? That's what I'm wondering.
Fair question. It's been
right.
I think so. I think Ezra and Thrawn disappeared. I think it's like 11 or 12 years prior to where they are now.
Is it very possible that he's going to be a bad guy? Was he a good guy before? Like
He was.
I'm assuming he was. So,
He was. He was. He was a lot like Luke Skywalker, but a little more brash.
so I'm wondering, does he come back the same? Because it seems like he's giving you breadcrumbs for something there. But yeah, I don't, you know what? I like the idea of this galaxy skipping. I think that's really cool. Like you were saying, Sean, about wow, let's see what another galaxy is like. And I like these witch kind of people. Like, see, I obviously haven't seen all the past, right? But I like this. This show feels almost Game of Thrones fantasy like. It feels
Sure.
fantasy like. Well, Star Wars is fantasy, but it feels like it's going into that a lot more, and I kind of like that actually. So I don't know. We'll see. But I would definitely like to see whether it be a movie or later on. I hope we do see some Luke at some point, even if it's maybe not in every episode, or maybe they're setting him up for a movie. Who knows? I don't know, but we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with the Game of Thrones point, except for Game of Thrones never gave us a 29-minute episode. But yeah, it does feel more like that than a lot of the other series have. Johnny, man, where do you think and hope it's heading?
I mean, obviously, we're building to the Filoni movie because there's no reason for it not to. It's too big a platform. This is Filoni's corner of the universe, and he's not going to play out of his own sandbox. So he's not stepping out of this, a cadre of characters that he's fostered and brought to where they are. So we're definitely building towards the movie. I think, for me anyway, like I am completely, I haven't read anything, I haven't looked into anything, so I have no idea how accurate or inaccurate this is. But I think that, inevitably we're going to get, the Ghost, the Rebels crew that's part of the series and is chasing them through the gates into whatever this all other galaxies, which there's a sick part of me that says, man, maybe this could be like caveman Earth, because a long time ago in a galaxy far away, now we're in this galaxy and it's like medieval times. Would be fucking hilarious, but obviously not going to be that, but would be hilarious. Somebody needs to make that like a robot chicken thing. But
I want to make a comment so bad right now, but just judging by the way you're talking, I can tell you haven't seen something, so I'm just going to shut my mouth.
I obviously haven't, I guess. But, it to me anyway, I think we're building towards, there's going to be the moment where the Thrawn reveal occurs, and you're going to have, the rebels standing against him. It's sort of in that, on their knees, prostrated because they've been captured, because they're outnumbered, they're outgunned, all that sort of sequence. And then you're going to have Ezra walk up beside Thrawn and do, the hood reveal, and he's standing with Thrawn. That's going to be the ending of an episode, and we're just going to be left like, wait a minute, hold on, what? And then we're going to come to find that they've joined forces to face the bigger threat, which is, the Grisk, the usual, whatever this, bigger threat is. And that's sort of where we build towards the movie, where they're dealing with us getting back to get ready for this battle. And I think we can sort of neatly sidestep the New Republic has never been at war issue by continuing the flamingos with their head in the sand motif that the New Republic Senate has sort of taken on in this, where it's like, whatever, no big deal. It's not happening. This is a wild goose chase. They're not going to take a threat from another galaxy seriously. And I think that's going to be sort of what sparks the resistance, or, this the fledgling first form of the resistance to go into action. And that's going to be that. And you're going to get, that being the film where, this unlikely team up of Thrawn and, and the resistance facing down this, world-eating threat that is, the Grisk or the Yuuzhan or whatever, likely culminating in the death of Thrawn, because obviously or Thrawn moving into this new galaxy sort of as the emperor of this new place, which is a possibility, I think. And that, he just sort of writes off the New Republic as a waste of his time and continues fostering a new galaxy of his own creation type thing. I can see them going that route, because obviously Thrawn's too big a piece to have on the playing field come the sequel trilogy.
Yeah. I mean, there are 20-something years where you can do something with him, right? And I feel like they foreshadowed what might happen to him in a book. Not that it'd be a huge spoiler, because honestly, you guys wouldn't even understand what the fuck I'm talking about, more than likely, unless you've read it. But yeah, I think that I think all that is plausible. Dustin says, I was hoping for Bryan Cranston Thrawn. Let me just reply to that with saying the absolute right guy is already playing Thrawn. Trust me on that one. 100%. The man that should be playing Thrawn is playing him. It's Lars Mikkelsen, and that's who voiced him. And when he appears on screen, I assure you he will be compelling and very, very fun to watch. I would describe him almost as kind of like House without the drug addiction. So very similar to that. Fellas, I think that is going to do it for tonight, unless anybody has one final thought they want to bring to the table. Randy?
So Johnny said something that kind of resonated with something that we saw in a couple of the previous episodes, talking about Ezra standing with Thrawn to try to bring everybody together for the game. So think about this. Morgan has been talking about how Thrawn is talking to her. What if it's Ezra using the Force to speak to her for Thrawn?
That makes sense.
I would assume that whenever Thrawn and Ezra and the Seventh Fleet made it out there, that they needed Ezra desperately. So, because they'd have no way to chart wherever the hell they landed. They'd have no clue where they are or what they're doing, and they definitely need someone Force sensitive to help. And I don't know if they're still together at this point. It's been 11 years, but I imagine that there is definitely a story to be told there. I just have a hunch it'll be saved for a novel in terms of when they first arrived over there.
Oh, yeah, we're not going to get that.
Of course.
We might get a flashback, but that's it.
Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, sorry, Johnny, do you have Johnny, Jason, any last points? I don't have any.
No, I'm good.
I'm good.
Yes, Crossroads was my first Zoe Saldana movie. Just a random reference I thought I'd throw out there.
Oh, the Britney Spears one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's the first movie I ever saw with Zoe Saldana.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I'll stick to the original. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, like the original Crossroads. That's right. What's his face was in it?
Macchio.
Thank you.
Ralph Macchio and Joe Seneca, Jamie Gertz.
I'm sorry. Ralph Macchio did things other than The Karate Kid. I don't believe you.
It's a great movie. Great movie. People definitely check it out.
It's a great movie. It's what got me to play the guitar. Like that. It's more of an inspiring movie than anything.
Yep, totally. A little bit of a come to age movie too, in a way, but in a gritty old school sense. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for us. Episode 4 of Ahsoka next week will be here on the channel, diving into that. Looking forward to it. Big shout out to Jason and Backtrack Cinema for being a sponsor here at Fandom Empire and allowing us to do what we do on here. It's greatly appreciated, man. You can check him out at Backtrack Cinema over on YouTube. He's doing a bunch of awesome things. I guess you've come to an end now, or are about to come to an end. The Alphabet Movie Challenge was August, right? So you got to be getting.
Well, I had 2 weeks holidays at the beginning of August, so I'm at R. I just released RoboCop today. So
RoboCop.
I got TUVWXYZ left, and but Thursday I have a huge ranking that was another content creator, SPC Unleashed, asked me he's calling it the specialist ranking. So we rank the Planet of the Apes franchise, Terminator, Predator, Aliens, and RoboCop all in one big ranking. So that's out Thursday.
Wow.
So yeah, and it was
each other.
Wow.
yeah,
That's a
it
hell
was
of
fun, man. It was fun, and I think it's gonna be all our picks will be kind of weird as we stack them against each other. But
I think my brain would melt from the homework for that.
it was fun though, because I love the sci-fi action genre. Like that's very much me. So it was a lot of fun. But that's out Thursday, this Thursday. So all you interested, tune in for that. It'll be a lot of fun.
I'd be the guy getting hated on for putting Terminator 1 above Terminator 2. So that's just my
We're not having this discussion again.
I love T1.
We're not.
We've
We've been doing
Hey,
this
Sean?
for 20 years.
John, I'm a big T1 fan. It's one of my favorite movies of all time, like top 5.
Awesome.
You
all
can
time.
be a T1 fan, but come on, T2 is better.
Awesome. I love T1. Hey, what are you doing for S?
A Jason Statham movie called Safe.
Safe. Nice.
That was and you just talked.
I'm more
about
curious
T.
what Z is.
I'm cheating on that one a bit.
You're
I
cheating?
already listed. I'm going to do the Mask of Zorro for.
No, that's not cheating. I like that. But hang on. We talking?
Yeah, that's cheating.
The 90s one.
Banderas? Yeah, that's a good movie.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
The sequel.
I had this all then this should take me to October, and then I'm just gonna do horror content for the month of October. I'm thinking. So yeah, so a lot of good stuff coming up.
Awesome. Well, definitely check Jason out at Backtrack Cinema. Greatly appreciative everybody that pitches in around here, and we'll be back next week with, I guess, the conclusion of the first half of Ahsoka already. We need 10 episodes out of these seasons. 8 is just not enough. Anyway, I already got to deal with the House of the Dragon season 2 is only 8 episodes. Don't even get me started. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, may the Force be with you. Good night.